All right, guys, what's good? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Stage. This is where I get to talk to people that help run your events, either FGC, esports, or other. This time, I have someone that is award-winning, world-renowned, my senpai, as it were, in photography. She is what got me into esports and FGC photography, and that is no lie. Like I say that about a lot of people, but Vexanie is the one. So, welcome, Vexanie. Welcome to Behind the Stage.
Whoa, what an introduction. Thank you. I'm learning so much about you already. I'm like, what? I mean, I know since the first event we worked together, you referred to me as senpai, yes. But everything else I didn't know, so thank you.
No, honestly, you were definitely one, if not the first person I ever managed to follow on social media and go like, who is this person? Why are these photos so good? Can I do the same thing?
I'm going to turn the interview around on you then. What event? No. What photos were those? What event was it, if you remember?
No, it was a dream hack. It was definitely a dream hack. And we'll go into like a little bit of your history as well, because obviously that's like sort of where you started. But dream hack, back in the day, so I'm going to age off myself and probably you as well, apologies. But yeah, dream hack photos, basically just the arena photos, all the photos that you've ever really posted on social media, not just on your own website, but for clients. Every photo and everyone I ever speak to go, do you know who Vexanie is? Yes. Well, that's the long and short of it, really. Like, if you don't know who Vexanie is, I'm going to spin this back around on you. Would you like to care to give yourself a little bit of an introduction, 30 seconds, just for people that don't know who you are? Because normally, like, you and I are behind the camera, and now we're in front. So, yeah, 30-second introduction about who you are, please.
All right. So my name is Stephanie, and I go by Vexanie. So you can call me either Steph or Vex or Vexanie. Background is Swedish, Panamanian, American, which is kind of a mix. So I was kind of born to be a bit of a globetrotter and not like live in one place. And I've been shooting esports for over 10 years now, actually. And I've only started doing this full time for 2 years, going on 3 years now in 2025.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to think, but that is how things normally work out, right? You do a 9 to 5 because photography, you love photography, but it's a hobby. It doesn't really pay much yet. And when you did get that drive, that passion to start building on that, and you start getting those jobs, like I've had Rob Paul on here, and he was working a 9 to 5, and eventually, his story is that once he ran out of holidays, there was then time to think of, do I make the jump or not? Because what's going to happen afterwards? You then become a full-time freelancer. You're hired by yourself. You're self-employed, and that is scary by its own means.
It's so scary, especially because I want to add so the job I did before this was I was into marketing. So the last job I had full-time was actually a product manager at Ben & Co. Before that, all the jobs I had were marketing. So luckily there were a lot of remote stuff, but at the same time, there's only so much you can do. And after a while, you do get these super boomer, I don't want to call them CEOs, but people in management who are just oh, you have to be in the office. And it's not really. Yeah. So it's about finding that you can do it, but also finding that balance and finding also the right team. And unfortunately, I never found the right team. So I just said, screw it. I'll just do it myself.
Yeah. We're going to be jumping around a little bit, but yeah, with that said, you were in marketing, product manager at Bandai Namco, and all the while in that era, you were still being a photographer. You were still going to events. You were still working at events on the side, as it were. So yes. There's not a possibility, but that is normally how things work, and especially coming with your background, my background as well. But that is how photographers normally start. No one just walks into a gig or an event and goes, I'm going to be the photographer. You get hired, and eventually you build up enough of a network and a rapport with everyone else in production, and go hey, yeah, let me know if you've got any other jobs coming up. I'll join in. And one of the questions I'm definitely going to ask is not your history, but generally speaking, your history of where you started to where you are now, because you've covered so many events. Not to mention the fighting game stuff, like Combo Breaker, CEO. But to Red Bull, to Riot, to Blast for Counter-Strike, the list goes on. But let me just get my questions back up. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much a really good segue to go. Like, what is your history in the event space? Like, I mentioned DreamHack earlier. And for those like myself, then this is going to sound very creepy, so I apologize, that I've followed your career since not when you first started, but near the early time when you started and the interviews you've done so far. Like, I know you started pretty much at DreamHack, but could you tell us a bit more?
Sure. So yeah, I started at DreamHack because at first the whole photo team at DreamHack was volunteer based, and I lived in Sweden. And like when I was growing up in the US, I always enjoyed gaming, and I always enjoyed like rave culture and like electronic music. So I was like, DreamHack is the best of both worlds. Like one day I really want to go. So I managed to go one day, and I joined actually the social media team, and I quickly realized like, damn, if I want good content or good social media, I need good content. So I brought my like crappy little Canon Rebel XSI. I know it's called something different in Europe, but I had that, and I started taking photos. And then social worked closely with photo, and I saw what everyone else was doing, including one of my best friends, Adela Snyder. And I was like, I want to do what they're doing. This looks awesome. Like, why can't my camera handle this low light? Well, because it's absolute garbage at the time. So that's how I started, and then it kind of like snowballed from there. That I was like, okay, there's something to it. Like, this is so much better than just doing social media. For me, is like covering stuff and like capturing the moment and like freezing time. Essentially, is like the coolest thing ever, especially for these moments of like winning or like what it means to different players. And it goes beyond just what you're doing as a social media person. It goes into, capturing one of the most important moments in people's lives, outside of like wedding and childbirth or whatever, right? So yeah. So it was a DreamHack, and then I niched into fighting games, which has like always been a part of my life, essentially, especially like growing up. And the first non-DreamHack event I did was Can Winter Clash in 2016, I want to say, or something. And it's actually the first time I met Abu, who I think is nominated for an Evo award, actually.
I believe his team is, for the locals, I believe, or
exactly.
Something along those lines. Yeah, that's amazing for Abu as well. Yeah, so sorry, carry on.
So that's how I met him as well. So it's fun to kind of grow alongside these people who are now winning Evo awards. Like, that's crazy.
I mean, you're no stranger to awards yourself, right? You have won the Esports Photographer Award, have been nominated a number of times as well. So it's just winners attract winners, I guess.
Maybe. Nah, I mean, birds of a feather, and I'm surrounded by a bunch of super talented birds, which sounds super cheesy when I'm going to hear this back. But it's true. Like, I have some of the coolest people in my space, whether like Discord or at events. Like, it's cool how this passion has really attracted a certain personality type, whether it is photography or video or production or anything. Like, we're here because we love it and we care, right?
Damn right. Oh, excuse me. So you mentioned, starting at DreamHack, then Can Winter Clash, kind of snowballed from there. Like, how did it snowball? Like, what happened? Like, did you just decide to go, like, I enjoy DreamHack, I enjoy fighting games, so go to Can Winter Clash. I'm just going to keep trying to go to more events. And one question I do have really was Can Winter Clash off your own back and just going for the fun of it? Or was that you, like, talking to the event managers and saying, like, hey, do you want to hire me for this job?
So my first year, I would just write to TOs and be like, can I show up? Like, I just want to show up. Like, can I bring my camera? Because I saw how events worked in the US, and I feel like I was a bit intimidated by like security potentially turning me away because like you can't bring in cameras or whatever. So I just asked tournament organizers, hey, can I just show up? And it was 100% off my own back. So I would travel with friends. We'd pay for our tickets. Our hotel was split the cost, obviously. We found some like really funny Airbnbs like along the way. Funny to like fit people into small spaces. Like, you got to make it work. So the whole first year, I fully financed everything like by myself and split costs with friends. It wasn't until the second year that people were like, oh, we can cover your hotel or anything like that. And to backtrack a little bit to your question as well, like what kind of kept me going? was when I did DreamHack and when I did Cannes Winter Clash, I would post the photos and people were so receptive and like excited and be like, oh, I saw you took a photo of this person. Where's my photo? Or do you have this or that? And like people got excited that like someone was actually covering it. And I feel like people normally wouldn't ask for these photos, but now that they existed, it created a demand of like, oh, wait, we can do so much more beyond just have an awesome tournament. We can document it. And then we can also create more hype after the event because people are tagging themselves in the event or whatever. So it snowballed from showing that like photography is super important, not just for the people who have attended, but for future attendees to be like, oh my God, that looks amazing. I need to go.
Yeah, no, definitely 100% agree. Like, again, these are all things like that I've learned from yourself, speaking to you at events in person, as well as everyone else. But knowing that, seeing what we deliver, what we bring out and what we capture, and people being hyped to see it again, especially like Combo Breaker this year, the Dragon Ball set was, and people go like, oh my God, what is this photo? And everyone's just crying and laughing and just capturing
Exactly.
emotion is like, yeah, like you said, capturing that moment in time, and everyone's just off the wall, and emotions just flowing everywhere. So what was after Cannes Winter Clash?
Yeah. What was after? Was it maybe hype spotting?
Oh, okay, so you came over with stories.
Yeah, that was awesome. Amazing crowd. I'll never forget. Completely off topic, but I'll never forget. Like after they had like a pub quiz or something, or like a trivia thing. Yeah. And then for some reason, everyone just started singing the Pokemon anthem together. And like I sent that clip to my mom, and she's like, "You found your people."
And that is, and again, another event you've captured or worked on, Pokemon. But we'll come back to that. So yeah, hype spotting, Cannes Winter Clash, Pokemon. Again, CEO, Combo Breaker, Evos, like numerous Evos.
There are some Smash tournaments in Sweden as well, called Beast.
Oh yeah.
Like rest in peace, they don't exist anymore. But they were actually one of the first tournaments that were like, hey, do you want to come down to our event? We'll cover your hotel or whatever. So funny story about that is like I went to, I think it was my first one or second one. I went and obviously had a good time, get to know like some Smash people, some friends of mine. And just by like chance, I actually met Isam and MPD.
Oh damn, okay.
Like I heard they're like Americans, so we just started chatting, and then it turns out, long story short, that like both of them went to like the middle school I was supposed to go to.
Oh.
Like by some change of fate, we ended up not at the same school, but we were supposed to because we we're both from South Florida.
Right.
And then like got to know them and just like hung out with them the rest of the event, and now we're just like, whenever we see each other, we're just like nothing has ever really happened. So yeah, exactly. So funny how event in southern Sweden just attracted people from South Florida, and then we meet, and then I know maybe it was like a Florida vibe.
Is there a Florida vibe in South Sweden? Well, I've only ever been to Malmo, so you're gonna have to educate me on this one. But cool, no, that's amazing, and yes, it's surprisingly a small world sometimes, and when circles just overlap, things just go again crazy. Yeah, but again, speaking of the events you've done, Beast, and we mentioned Evo, done numerous Evos. Now you've worked so many Evos. How many Evos have you actually worked? Evo Vegas, like we'll keep it just to that one.
I feel like 5, maybe. I mean, official, maybe 2 or 3.
Okay.
So the first year I worked for Evo, I actually worked for Event Hubs.
Ah, that's cool. Yeah, that's very cool. Like, that's technically a publication.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
And like I'm so cool with the guys that work there. Like they're like cheering me on from the sidelines. But I mean, if they end up listening to this, I just let them know like I'll never forget you guys for the support you gave me, because like I was gonna show up anyway, just as like a player.
Yeah.
But because they wanted me for their project, which was like kind of like Pokemon Snap but for players, I managed to like do something beyond just show up. So shout outs to Event Hubs for that opportunity.
Amazing. No, but shout outs to Event Hubs, definitely. They gave me a lot of information and knowledge in the Street Fighter 4 days. But you mentioned entering Evo as a player. So what was your game?
Oh, it was Street Fighter 5.
Oh, okay.
And someone actually noticed, they're like, you're supposed to be in my pool, but you got DQ'd. I'm like, work.
That was work. Fair. No, shame. But okay, even Street Fighter 5, fair, nice. But yeah, speaking of Evos, one thing that people will obviously, hopefully recognize your work is obviously the Arslan Ash photo. You've discussed this in previous in different other podcasts about like capturing that moment in time. But just for a quick summary, could you give me an explanation of how you managed to capture that photo?
That's a great question. It's really time, place, and like stars aligning, and I can actually draw a parallel with another photo I'd taken outside of FGC, like after I explain it. But I saw the moment happening. I think it was Rob who was already on stage, or someone was already on stage. So obviously I'm not going to go and be an extra person. And then he won, and even before he won, I was like, if he wins, this is history.
Yeah.
This is huge. This I've never seen this before. No one has ever seen this before. So I was like, this is, no matter what I do, whatever photo I take is going to make history.
Okay.
And then, I mean, obviously, we all know what happened. He won, and then he bowed down to pray, I believe. Sorry if it was a prayer, right?
Yeah.
And I just stood at the right place in the right time, and I luckily he did it slowly enough so I could frame the like victory and like his name and everything like that. So it just worked out perfectly that like he took his time to be in that moment, and I just knew. It's almost like beforehand, I knew what moment I wanted to capture with this. It was obviously his victory, but it wasn't just like the usual pop-off screaming. It was spiritual.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
And the example I was going to give is last year at the Copenhagen Major, I took a really cool photo during the Vitality intro of Apex. So there's Apex from Vitality, and then there's a light shining down on someone with an Apex jersey.
Oh.
And there's another person with an Apex flag of his face. And then it's Apex on the screen, and it just worked. And this is the photo I was hoping to happen. Like, I was like, I'm going to sit here and snap until it just works. And it did. And it just, one of my favorite photos of all time, both of these. I don't know how, like, when I talk about it, I'm realizing it's almost like seeing into the future.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I don't want to diminish anything you've ever done, especially with these two photos. But obviously there is an aspect of luck and patience, especially when you just mentioned, like, you were sitting there snapping, waiting for this moment to happen. You weren't 100% certain it was going to happen, especially with Apex. And with Arsenal Ash, you got lucky. Apologies.
I was like, something is going to happen. Maybe I'm just a stand user. I don't know. I can't reveal my secrets.
You definitely can't reveal too many of your secrets. But yeah, shout out to Jojo. But yeah, so luck, patience, and obviously having the experience of knowing what settings you use. I'm not going to go too deep into what settings you use for every photo you've ever taken, because that's just too much and not for this podcast. But I am going to ask equipment-related questions shortly. But outside of these two photos, what third option would you choose to be your most favorite work? I'm not going to say most well-known work, but your most favorite work, because as a photographer, as a creator, these people, us as a whole, I say these people, are very self-aware and self-deprecating of our own skills and talents. Like, you take a photo, it's like, oh, that's not a great photo, but someone comes around and goes, that was amazing, what are you saying?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a very hard question. Go like, what's your third option from Arsenal Ash winning Evo to Apex Vitality at Copenhagen to what's your third option?
My third, I'm definitely going to forget what the real third option, but off the top of my head, I think of Sonic Fox popping off during Combo Breaker.
Okay.
That was insane. Like, the black and white, it's popped off versus Goichi. And like the composition, it just worked. And again, I was just standing there and it just worked. And maybe I'm giving myself too much or too little credit, but like, yeah, it just worked. I had a feeling that that's the kind of thing, the foresight, right? Like, you have an idea of where a photo is going to go depending on the person. And I know that Sonic Fox is a super animated person. They go bonkers for almost anything, right? Especially versus Goichi, because that eternal rivalry, right? Yeah. So that's one of them. I think Kerrigan winning the major in Antwerp is also one of my favorites, like just the phase thing, because thank God for those sparklers that create this incredible bokeh that made it a super dreamlike thing and this kind of a fairy tale for this team, which I really, really love. Those are the two ones. Like, again, there's probably more I can't think of, but yeah.
You've had 10 years of working inside the event space. You're going to have so many photos, but I'll take two.
Sure.
I'll take those two, because those two are definitely amazing photos. Anytime I hear that one of my friends, I would consider you a friend, working an event, like either you, Rob, Dr. Puppet, shouts to him, whenever you guys are working, and if I manage to catch you on stream, I go, hey, I know that person as well.
I do this as well. Even though, like, fun fact, I hate when people do it. No, I don't mind when people do it, but when they send me like a screenshot of me working, it actually throws me off so bad. Because I have this thing like I hate being perceived, which is so dumb considering what I do. I perceive people.
Yes.
But when someone perceives me, I'm just no. Oh, I'm not. No.
I'm failed at my job. You're not supposed to see me. You're supposed to see the players. I'm at the moment. Yeah, no, I feel you on that one. That's definitely one of those things. Like, don't look at me. I'm not here. I'm in the background. Yes. I'm blurred out. Oh man. Exactly. Yeah. So capturing these moments with a bit of foresight, lots of patience, definitely patience, little touch of luck.
But also I want to add, I don't know if you're going to say this, but understanding the game you're shooting.
Yes, I was going to...
Understanding what's on the line.
Yeah, understanding what's on the line, which is going to lead on to this question, which basically, do you do homework for events or players? Like coming into a new game, like, say, Overwatch or Marvel Rivals right now, that's brand new. Like, do you watch any of that gameplay? Do you follow any of the teams so that when you hopefully get hired for a Marvel Rivals tournament, like who's the most animated, who's working, who's doing what?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I try to do as much research as possible, and it's a mixture of just watching the game, seeing what the general social media is like, and also just asking my friends who are the experts, because I'm very much like that type of learner. They can give me the TLDR.
Yeah.
Checking out some subreddits as well, checking out some storylines. I really like stories, especially speak to me more than like who's going to pop off. It's like, what is the story that will create the pop off itself? Yeah. So yeah, definitely do some research, especially if I don't know the game.
Okay. And what was the game that you researched the most recently? Not to give away any secrets, because obviously, if you have an NDA or any work that's coming up, potentially, I don't want to throw it off. But
no, I gotta say it was probably a mix of Valorant and League. Like, I haven't shot that much League actually, but it was, for example, for League of its own. It was important to kind of know like who Los Ratones are, and like what that means is not just like some random team. It's a team of legends created by a superstar.
Yes.
So yeah.
And again, those photos were amazing. For those that weren't watching, we had the alternate timeline where Reckles was playing with Faker, and that was
so cool,
mind blowing.
That was actually the first time I met Reckless.
Really? Oh,
so Media Day started, and they were the first team, and he was the first player. And like, I spoke Swedish to him, and at first he was like confused, like, why is she speaking Swedish? And then he's like, how long have you been doing this for? I'm like, 10 years. He's like, how come we've never met? Like, this is weird, bizarre, And it was just a good time, actually. Super kind and humble guy, actually, for being who he is, right? Like, you'd be intimidated, but like, he's very sweet.
Yeah. No, nice. That's good to hear, because obviously sometimes when you meet your heroes or meet superstars or legends, as they were, they may have a personality that doesn't benefit them to the general public, right? But
I started watching League and Reckless like before he had all the tattoos and before I really got into photography.
Yeah.
So like, this guy's career is older than mine.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, good times.
Definitely good times. And seeing him with all tattoos now, it's, like you mentioned, back when he first started as a kid as such, really.
Yes.
It was basically a kid with bare skin, no tattoos, nothing. And coming out swinging, looking like a hard ass. And it's amazing. I fucking love it. But no, I do want to... One day I would love to shoot Riot, or shoot with Riot, shoot for Riot, whatever we're going to say. But you meeting Reckles, amazing. Obviously, Faker, the GOAT of League of Legends. Not sure how much Korean you know. I'm not sure you held a conversation with Faker. I'm not...
Definitely not, but he is... Okay, he is aura.
Yeah.
He is fucking aura. Like, he walks into the room, you know exactly who he is. And it's not that he has an attitude. He doesn't do anything. He's just cool, right? I remember last year for League of its own, we were doing media day and they're waiting to do some like hero shots or something. And he was like sitting somewhere just reading some book about like time space paradox, like some super like 200 IQ stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I expect from him because he's the GOAT, right? So
Yeah. He's definitely put in the work to be at his level in and out of the game. And yeah, last year, someone managed to run an interview with him, and they managed to get a list of books that he recommended, and I only worked through one of them because it was just, like I said, 200 IQ. My mind was melting. It took me all year to read that one book, and I was like, oh God, no, I can't do it. Sorry. Like,
I would, I mean, obviously you read a lot about him, but like, imagine if he would have taken the route into fighting games.
Oh man.
That's something I think about with the crossover of games. I think about some players. I'm like, God, they'd be so good at fighting games. Like Faker, Rops would be incredible as well. I almost want the best of the best to like swap games and then just see what it's like.
That would be epic. Like, who do we need to speak to organize this, Lex? Like, who do we need to speak to?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Rick, Evo, how are you doing?
Sony, let's go. Like, you got some money? Well, even Riot themselves, like, just have everyone on all three games. Like, 2XKO is coming out. That's a fighting game. You've got Valorant, you've got League, throw in TFT as well, and Wild Rift. And, you've got 5 games. All of you guys can swap in and out. Let's go and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And if anyone takes that idea, you heard it here first. From Vexanie, not me. I'm not taking this one.
No, but we it was a co-creation. We co-created.
Okay, I'll take that. Co-creation. But yeah, so taking very popular, successful photos, what do you define as success in your career? Not in the photos you take, but in your career.
I'm going to give a really boring answer for that, which goes for anyone, which is like the first measure of success is how often you get hired. Like I am unfortunately have not transcended beyond feeling like my work is tied to my productivity and like all this vicious circle that I know there's more to it. But for now, especially if I'm doing this full time, these are connected, unfortunately. But the thing is, it's not even about my photography. It's any career. If you continue to get hired, you're going to feel like you're successful. It's very like simple A to B perspective. But if you do look beyond that, you can get consecutively hired for anything. But if you're just shooting the same thing over and over again, you're going to get tired. You're going to get bored. You're going to start hating your life. At least I would. Like I get bored very easily. So again, when I worked full time, every job I was at, I only lasted 2 years because I got bored. I could not focus for life of me. I mean, it was mostly like shitty management and stuff, but generally speaking, I could not stay in one place for more than 2 years. Even if it was like a super cool or fun job, it just became repetitive. So for me, success is just like outdoing yourself and finding new ways to take photos and do things different, but without like breaking the reason why you get hired, right? Yeah. Like if I get hired by, let's say Evo, and I start doing a bunch of wacky edits with some weird colors and getting a bit too creative, they're going to be like, this is great, but we can't use this. Right? But I find ways to push myself and get inspiration from others to make sure that I'm always trying something new, more or less.
Yeah. Okay. I've got 2 questions from that answer, which is an amazing answer. What inspires you?
What inspires me? Everybody. Like everyone I work with, everyone, both photo and video people.
Yes.
I love working in teams so much because someone's going to get the shot that's going to give you temporary imposter syndrome. Like that happens so much. But no, every photographer, even beyond esports, inspires me to like do something different. Recently, like started looking at a lot of ice hockey photographers, actually.
Okay.
Who are blessed with so much light and so much access, which I shouldn't complain about because I'm normally a teal photographer, but like I would never, for the record, I'm not saying they have it easy because I could never do that. But it does make me think like, okay, how can I apply this? How can I make this sick photo from hockey, but in esports, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone inspires me. And this is why I always encourage people to like take up space and show up, because as soon as we stop getting new photographers, that's when inspiration kind of just falls off in a way. Because there's no, I don't even say competition, but there's no new set of eyes. Right?
Yeah. And just to reiterate on a point, but not a question, of working with a team and getting imposter syndrome because of someone taking that amazing photo, even though it's all a team. That is what I felt when working with yourself and Rob and Lee and Carlton, that one comma breaker that I managed to work on. Again, thank you very much. Because every time I've turned round, you guys all had bangers, and I'm feeling like I'm left in the dust. Like, why am I actually on this team? I'm a bench warmer right now, and I'm not even pulling my weight, so it felt horrible. But it was a great experience, regardless. And it's things I've learned from you guys, especially at Combo Breaker that year, that I've pulled back and tried to implement inside European fighting game major events. Because how things are handled sometimes are slightly different. Not to say everything should be the same, but there are room for everyone to grow. And I feel like social media and the social media platform and like the media teams in general, like we could be doing so much more, especially within the EU fighting game scene. I won't even talk about esports because I'm not in it. But yeah, thank you again for bringing me into that team.
Yeah, of course. Now is a good time, and I mean those are also amazing photographers, each and every one of you are. So like, it helps. But also, on that note, I just want to say it is cool to see how certain broadcasts and production have to start to implement photos a bit more. So I know Rob worked some Riot event where they used the photos, not just the media day photos, but like other types of photos during the broadcast. Now during the Blast Bounty, they'll do a recap about a certain player, and then I'll see my photos from like the previous event or whatever, and I'm like, oh, my photos are just beyond social media. Like they add to the storyline of whatever the analysts are talking about. Yeah. So we're getting there. We're getting there.
Slowly but surely we're getting there. And yeah, it's not just our photos living on social media or they just get put into archive for forever because they won't bring them back out, but actually being used in the next broadcast, which is amazing to see. Because yeah, like I said, seeing your work suddenly pop up on screen or even printed out, because I've followed so many esports photographers having your picture printed out, blown up to be the size of the arena entrance, and it's just there staring at you in the face is amazing to see. Where I was going to go with this. So working with a team, which you love, how would you build your team of photographers? What do you look for?
The first thing I look for is people who understand what the client needs in terms of like consistency and the color grading. Like, as I said, if you go in and everyone starts being, wacky with their color grading and shots they're taking, then at the end of the day, nothing is actually usable for social or for decks or for anything. Client ain't gonna like that, right? You gotta be consistent with what you can give. The client should look at the full album of all photographers and be like, I don't know who took any of these because they all like look banger, which sounds kind of lame to a degree because you're kind of like, you want to stand out and why should everything look the same? But it's not about that, because I think a lot of people say that they can tell my photos by some of the grading, like the editing I do, and also like the angle. Everyone calls, like, instead of the Dutch angle, it's a Steph angle, which is so annoying. But like there should be some consistency and they should just look similar, because at the end of the day, you're not there to be a creative genius with your editing skills. You're there to supply the client with usable footage to promote their event.
Yeah.
So people who understand that and people who know how to work in a team, I cannot stress that enough. A lot of people, there's been people I worked with who are so good, but I would never work with them in a team.
Fair.
Because it's just bad vibes. Like, vibes are everything. That's why I like working in a team. Like, there's some events where I've kind of been alone,
sure,
and it's just not the same. If that was the case, if I was working alone all the time, I don't think I would be doing this. Both like photography and like in the production thing. Like, I need to be in a space of people I know and trust.
Yes.
Like, even being able to like know and dance with a steady cam is a huge deal. So
yeah, I had Dink on recently, and yeah, we just had a conversation about Combo Breaker 2024, AK versus Arsenal and Ash, and then the rush when AK won. Everyone was looking, all the production staff was looking out for each other because the stampede is going to happen. And not to even say Combo Breaker, UFA, this had just been 2024.
Exactly.
Chris Nagy, when you was on stage, I was scared for you. Like that rush on stage was like, oh my God, like, that's amazing. And yes, Kusanagi won.
But is she gonna survive?
Like,
Yeah.
especially because, like, you're not exactly a tall woman.
No, I'm pretty average height, I'd say.
Average height.
I'm not Lee. Like,
No.
protect Lee with your life.
Definitely, 100%.
But
yeah, but no, you being an average build person, sorry, but a bunch of large, sweaty, fighting game male players
French.
rushing the stage. French. Rushing this stage. It was, I was scared for your life. Like, I don't know if Stephanie's going to come out of this alive.
I mean, I already got a taste of that from the Irish lads when I think, who was it that was playing?
Oh,
I forget who was it Bricterium?
Oh, it might have been Bricterium. Yeah.
And they freaking Ian McTetley and all those dudes just like, don't be out of the way. And then they came back and they apologized profusely, but it was like, well, this is it.
This is
but
how
for that one on stage was just wild. Shout out to Koga for like
Koga, best dude,
goated, but keeping me alive and everyone. But I mean, I've thought about that a few times. I'm just like, if this is how I go, this is how I go. That's gonna be some banger photos. I just hope someone who knows how to edit gets my SD card.
Okay, off the cuff question then. Who would you trust to edit your photos?
I would trust Luc Bouchon.
Yeah, good guy. Good guy.
Joao Ferreira.
Yeah.
Think Adela as well.
Okay.
Yeah, like I have a good bunch of people I would trust. I've trusted I forget his last name now, but his name is Brock. We work a lot in Pokemon. This is actually how we work, where I shoot and he just edits.
Okay, yeah.
He does a great job. The only thing I know is that Luke for sure would just bitch about how I actually shoot like underexposed. I shoot really, really dark.
Okay.
Everyone kind of like complains or bullies me for it, but I'm like, I'm still making bangers. So
yeah, exactly.
wait on it.
This is how
because I would much rather underexpose than overexpose.
Okay. Why?
Even if it's to the extreme, because then you can at least save it.
Okay.
Compared to like if something is completely blown out, then you're kind of screwed. Aside from maybe doing like a black and white or something. So maybe it is a bit too dark, but
it's how you shoot it. That's your style.
It's just my thing.
Yeah, that's your thing. I'll take it. That's no. Like, you have your own style. And then this reminds me of the question I was going to ask. Being consistent. How do you be consistent? Like, how have you managed to train yourself to be so consistent? Not just in editing style, but obviously composition and grabbing that shot. Like we mentioned earlier already, like, patience is definitely a big one. Waiting for that right moment, being able to frame up that shot. So that's just timing on the subject's perspective and you being able to manage your settings quickly. But how do you get to stay so consistent?
I think it's as simple as like, I'll shoot an event and depending on the client, I'll be like, what do they need from me? That's really what it comes down to. And not just like, what do I deliver? But if I was on the other side, if I'm a potential player, attendee, sponsor, whatever, what would I need to see that would convince me to show up, give them money, compete, whatever? I want that to get their attention. So I put myself in that mindset of like, what would grab my attention? Because the thing is, as much as we're like creative people and visuals, not every person gives a shit about photos. Not every person can understand like the Arslan Ash photo, right?
Right.
And that's an interesting thing actually, is like Arslan Ash photo is super important. But if I show that to a random person, they might not be too impressed. They're like, oh, this guy is one. This is important, but they don't know the context, right?
Yeah.
So you need to like go beyond the niche context and be like, how do I make this interesting for anyone?
Okay. Interesting. And obviously, I'm asking you all these questions not just because for the podcast, but digging into your brain, my senpai. Vexanie.
We've never had this chance to do this. I'm super happy, like, just to yap it out.
I'm good. I'm glad because I want to learn. So I'm learning so much from you, and these are always questions I've always wanted to ask, because I want to get to your level. And I'm not going to lie about it. That's the key point of. No, let's say the key point. The main point of me getting you onto this podcast was not just to share your wealth of knowledge and experience in this space, but to help other people jump into this space, but also selfishly help me grow and learn and hopefully get hired more often as well.
No, I think that's great because you're probably not the only one who's like wants to ask all these things, and like I straight up suck at DMs. Like I tell people like, because the thing is like people ask me all these questions and I can't be bothered to. I don't have the time to type it out.
You're
so I'd much rather yap it out. Yeah. Exactly. So I think this is great. So maybe everyone should just hit me up for a podcast and I'll pick my brain via podcast.
Don't worry, I will put you on for part 2 if we run out of time and have more questions.
Sounds good.
But yeah, so being consistent, like that's how you stay consistent. Building out a team, again, you know, the vibes definitely one, especially if you are all working in a team. That reminds me, I've got a story to tell you after this about some good vibes. And yeah, making sure everyone's consistent with what the employer, I just ran out of words there for a second, but the people hiring you want and what they want you to deliver. And again, that's a question really. Like, people knowing what to deliver, do you assume or do you ask? Especially within the team. Like, if you're being brought on the team, like, are you asking, like, Rick, because he's probably the easiest person we both know, to go like, hey, like, what do you want from Combo Breaker or Evo?
I think it's a mix of both. Generally, I'm like, if they hire me, they know what they like my style.
Yeah.
But then I will also ask, I mean, I have a tendency to do this with every single client, especially after day one. I'm like, is there anything you want more or less of?
Yeah.
What did I not necessarily miss, but like, yeah, what am I going in the right direction of what you need?
Yes. Okay.
So yeah, it's a mixture of both, I would say.
Okay, cool. That's good. And speaking of day 1 and day 2s and multi-day events in general of these events, obviously you do your edits and you post them. After the event, do you ever go back and look at your past work for that event and go like, basically have a moment of self-reflection, go like, this is what I should have done better or not, or should have done more of, and XYZ like that?
I don't necessarily look at my own albums, but I look at everyone else's, and I'm like, why the fuck didn't I think of that? Am I dumb? Like, yes. Why? Yeah, or like, yeah, and that's go back to inspiration, where like I look at everyone else's albums from the same event, and I'm like, how did they get that? When did they? Like, it just blows my mind completely. And then again, a little dash of imposter syndrome, and then I'm like, next year I want to try this, whether it's a style of editing or an angle or whatever. Like, I always catch myself every single event being like, I should have done this, or I will do this next time. Yeah, definitely.
Cool, good. I'm glad to hear it. Glad I'm not missing out on potentially critical steps on my own path.
No, like, I mean, I look like, as the albums and whatever get like retweets, whatever, I just check through to make everything looks good. But at that point, I'm really tired of looking at my photos.
Yeah.
So I'd rather look at everyone else's.
Yeah, because again, we can't be everywhere at once. Like, that's why you work as a team, especially on a show floor. Doesn't matter what show floor it is. It's a big space and you're only one person. There is always unfortunately going to be something you miss, a pop-off impulse somewhere, or some great cosplay, or some weird-ass wacky moment, right? Especially, on any floor, because there's just too much space. Too much. So you have covered so many events. Fighting games, esports, pretty much all of Blast, Counter-Strike stuff is all tier 1. Like, I don't think there's a tier 2 event in there as such. Correct me if I'm wrong. And please feel free to inject at any point. So I could be talking out my ass here. But basically, what do you class as a major? Because you've done a lot of big events now. Like, are they all majors? Or, like, obviously the work you do are pretty much all majors, but what, in your mind, what would you class something as a major compared to something else? Like, what would you compare Combo Breaker to a CEO, or like a Blast event, just for esports versus FGC?
I think it's a little bit, so obviously the number one boring answer is like, obviously for CS, if it's called a major, it's just a major. That's just the way it is, and everyone wants to win a major. When it comes to on another level, though, it kind of depends on the storylines of which event it is. Like, if it's someone's last game before retiring, if someone, any of these kind of situations, they kind of, storylines make the event itself. I've been at like smaller events that have meant the world. I mean, as an example, just now, the Blast Bounty as we speak, Navi and Imperial, the female team, are playing.
Ah.
You know, this is not a Counter-Strike major, but this is still huge.
Yes.
And important. So the context and the storyline of this is making this game more than just a Blast online studio thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the storylines of what's actually going on and what it means. I mean, this year, Combo Breaker is going to be the 10th year anniversary, I think.
Yes.
Like, that in itself is huge, right?
Yes.
So that makes it one of the most important Combo Breakers for me and everyone, probably.
Yeah. It's crazy to think I've only been going for 4 years now coming up. Hopefully I'm making Combo Breaker to 2025. Nothing's in the books yet, or even on my calendar because life. But yeah, 10 years of Combo Breaker. If you guys haven't been, please try and go to Combo Breaker. It is amazing. Yes. And that is no shilling of anything that's currently that I'm sitting on or have on the side or anything. Like, the event itself is amazing. Yes. And if you get to go to any US fighting game major, Combo Breaker should be like top of your list.
Yes.
But moving on from fighting games, Counter's Blast. Let's just go with Blast because that is a series of Counter-Strike major events, right? Like, what was your favorite Blast?
Ooh.
Because you've done a few now.
I have two I'm thinking of immediately.
Yeah, go for
So the most recent one was definitely the major in Paris.
Okay.
Solely because if you go back to like achievement and success, whatever, it's like, since it was the last CS major, like before CS2, they did this in the opening ceremony, this incredible collage of all the photos that Mihao and I had taken on the group stage. And it was like kind of like a thank you. It was like they zoomed out and it was just a huge compilation of all these photos, and like I saw it, I burst out crying. I couldn't believe it. I was just like in the Accor Arena, which is where I shot like Worlds and like countless of whatever, and it's just like, holy, I did this.
Yes, you did.
That's one, and the first one is my first Blast.
Okay.
My first Blast was perfect. I worked with Adela Snyder and Bart, who I cannot pronounce his last name, but he works with Team Liquid now.
Okay.
It was the three of us, and it was when they had like the stage that was like 2 games on at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was so like, I love those people so much, like as people and as colleagues, and it was one of the most like wholesome, fun events I could think of. And as a bonus thing, it was also during Halloween, so we went to like Tivoli in Copenhagen, which had like a Halloween themed amusement park thing.
Oh yes.
It was absolute treat. So those are my 2 favorites for sure.
Fair. And then like moving on, not really moving on, but you know, you mentioned Riot, you mentioned Worlds. You know, Riot's League of Legends biggest ever tournament that runs every year. Like, it was in London this year. Didn't manage to get tickets. It was a nightmare. But how did you manage to basically work your way up from fighting games to Blast to Red Bull to Riot? Like, how did that work out? Like, how did you get to that? Like, to work with these companies, these clients? Because I'm sure, like, it's not. I assume, and again, you can correct me here, that they're not reaching out to you. It's you reaching out to them somehow.
100%. Like. People are not going to reach out to you. You have to show them how bad you want it, because if you don't want it bad enough, why would they pick you? You know, someone's going to want it more, and they're going to pick that person, most likely, not always. But like, as the case with Red Bull, how I got in touch with them was the first Red Bull Kumite I went to. I forget which year it was.
Sure, yeah.
But I went on my own dime. I got an Airbnb that I split with a couple who, thank God, were not there the weekend, so I got like the full thing to myself. And it was like classic Parisian apartment where it was like a gazillion flights of stairs, no elevator, and I had my like camera gear. It was rough.
Yeah.
But I went to Comité and I just showed up. I took my photos. Wasn't shooting for anyone but myself. But like, since it was FGC and a bit like grassroots at the time, especially.
Yeah.
And like some people knew me already. They kind of just let me go wherever I wanted, more or less.
More or less.
And then afterwards, the guy, I think he is actually the mastermind behind Rebel Kumite, El Chiquito.
Yes.
Flo, he was like, he wrote to me, he's like, thank you for like taking care of my baby. Thank you for making my baby look so good. And he saw that I was in it for like passion, you know, and he is also an incredible person, also equally passionate, if not more. And he kind of, I think, would like to think that he saw that and wanted to like help me out and take the next step. So then he put me in touch, or he didn't put me in touch. He just made sure that anyone else at Red Bull in the gaming atmosphere knew who I was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And that's all he really needed to do, because then it kind of, again, snowballed from there. Did the Dragon Ball Fighters World Finals in Paris as well.
Yeah.
Where I got to meet some cool people, and even before that. So like he saw me and he made sure people knew who I was, and then that's kind of how it came about.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And I think that applies to most events as well. They're like, you show up, you shoot your shit, and if you do good enough, the word will spread.
Yeah, I'm struggling at the word spreading part at the moment, but that is good to know. And yeah, no, amazing, really, and thankful for someone being kind enough and nice enough to notice that the hard work you put in, and obviously the banger photos you keep taking, and going, hey, like, look, this is someone you should definitely know and keep in mind for future Red Bull Committee events. And not
he's been incredible. He's changed a bunch of jobs because he probably, like me, gets distracted and like has so many ideas. It's too much for one company.
Yeah.
But like so that was when he was at Red Bull, and then he switched companies. He got me like a really cool gig with Razer like 2 years ago, like doing some product photography. Like he sees me real, like recognize real kind of, right? So thank you so much if you're listening to this, Flo. You are amazing. There's also you know what? There's so many flows. I'm sorry. There's so many flows in French scene, and they're all incredible. So
I think that's one on the list, really. If you meet a flow, they're going to be great. So
exactly. Flow is like an omen of good fortune.
Yes.
So definitely. Respect your flows.
Always respect your flows. Is your flow also a giant and friendly?
Yes.
Are they the same person? Just flows in general. Oh yes, no.
Flows are good people.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. And how about in that case, like Worlds? Like how did you snowball into Worlds? You didn't obviously just walk in. Oh
no, that was also with Red Bull, and I was just like, it's in Europe. I'm available. Do you need someone? And then it worked itself out because they had Red Bull athletes at the time.
Yes, yeah.
That were competing. So the stars aligned, and we made it work. And also, I think Red Bull was still an official partner then, and they still are now. But apparently, they're a bit stricter. So yeah. And to be fair, also it was a blessing in disguise not going to Worlds last year, because I was already hired for Blast in Singapore.
Yes.
But I would have liked to see Linkin Park live. It would have been great.
It would have been. Okay, well, I'm switching up this podcast right now. What do you think about the new Linkin Park?
It's not the same, but it's different, and it'll do.
It'll do?
Yeah, it'll do. I'm actually going to go see a Linkin Park tribute band in 2 days. So
sick.
Yeah. Like, they do multiple shows. I've never been to one, so I'm pretty excited to. Good thing we're doing this podcast now and not after, because I'm not going to have a voice.
Fair. No, honestly, like, enjoy your time at the gig. Yeah, I would have loved if I was awake at the time. I would have tried to get tickets for when they were when they announced a tour, because that just dropped out of nowhere. But yeah, Worlds with Linkin Park playing, definitely different. Some songs I'm not a fan of.
I mean, I think the live show during World was sick.
Yes,
the opening ceremony was amazing. Always. And I hope one day to work with the team who did the photos for that. So like Adela, Joe, Colin, Chris Bett, like one of these days there's going to be room for me as well.
Yeah, well, I'll be after you, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, that team is great. Joe as well, he's on the flight to Japan right now as we speak, shooting Apex. So good luck to him, and safe travels. But yeah, so I think we've covered this already, but I just want to reiterate, like, getting exposure to being a photographer, like a lot of things within, especially the fighting game community and the fighting game scene, is rock up with your gear, don't be a menace, take photos, right? You just got to turn up.
Yes.
But like, what else would you say to people to get exposure? Like, not just keep hammering on at your TOs to like run your monthlies, your regionals, your majors. Like, I'm sure Rick would not appreciate, even though he would say it's fine, to like send a million emails to the Combo Breaker email address and go like, "Hey, I want to be hired. Like, hire me." Blah blah blah. I've already done that. It doesn't work. But yeah, what else would you say to do to get more exposure, to get to your level?
Take photos that matter. Like, there's someone I stumbled upon recently, and I checked out their portfolio, and they took so many photos where I'm just like, why? Why did you take a photo of that? It was like casters or someone, and it was like a photo from behind, and it was like multiple. It was like 10 photos of kind of the same thing, and none of it. This is gonna sound so harsh, but none of it like provided value, neither creatively or for the client. It looked kind of cool, I guess, but like, it's not. Is that what you want to show people that you can do? Like, you know.
Was
I
it
think
portfolio you looked at?
no, it was not your portfolio, and should be. No. Just to be clear, I've done this as well, but like, color your images for sure, and again, make sure your photos are providing value in some sense, whether it be for the TO or for the people or the sponsor. Like, even some good sponsor photos, like people, that is actually super undervalued. To take good sponsor photos. Like, I worked mostly within the sales for like ESL events.
Okay.
And it's, you have to be able to make a partner look good. And if you can't do that, then that's one less client in your pool.
Yeah.
But one thing I actually gained inspiration from as well is there's a lot of photographers that do what I used to do kind of, and they make it almost a mission to almost document every single attendee or player.
Yeah, okay.
Which I wish I had the time and energy for, but like, I'm too busy doing like the main stuff. Yes. But I respect it, and I love seeing that, because that opens my eyes. It reminds me to like backtrack a bit and be like, if I see someone who looks cool, take a photo of them. Like, they don't have to be top players or on main stage for me to give a damn.
Yeah.
So I want people, if anyone's listening and who does this, continue doing that. But once again, first of all, make them look good. If they're blinking their eyes or like a quadruple chin when they don't have that normally, like whatever, be conscious, right? That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, make sure it's not 4 photos of like a water bottle or something, right?
Try not to.
Try not to, yeah. Unless it's a sponsor. I know.
Speaking of sponsors, no, I'm not. I'm just going to grab a drink of water, but mix up.
But do drink water, actually. That's a really good, cheers.
And for those listening and or watching, hydrate check there. So
stay hydrated, yes.
Stay hydrated. Now on to some technical questions, even though I think we've gone through a lot of technical questions. Camera gear, and you lugging up all your camera gear up 20 flights of stairs in Paris. Like, what bag do you use to carry your gear? Like, do you use a Pelican case, or do you use a think tank, or do you like soft bag? Like, what do you prefer using?
I use a think tank, and I'm thinking about getting a Pelican. Like, I thought about this recently.
Okay, go for it.
Because I've been forced to take a few flights. I have like a shitty propeller plane that they're like, oh, it's not going to fit. You have to put in the thing. And I'm like, no, you're not. And every single time I pull up a photo from the exact aircraft, and I'm like, it fits. Yeah. Don't fucking talk to me. Like, don't touch my bag. But I hate having, like, the fact that I have to have that confrontation is really stressful every single time.
Yes.
Especially because my bag is like quite heavy. So they at first like half-ass lift. They're like, oh, this is too heavy. So I use a think tank. It fits in the propeller aircrafts for anyone who flies and is listening. But man, we really got to get a system of like, this bag is aircraft. Like, this is camera gear. Don't touch it.
Pretty much, right? Like, I think that's the only reason I got a Peli case, because it was just like, it's hard knocks and galores, that's fine. Like, anything in there is going to be safe. But hey, look, I'm going to have to carry this on.
Yeah, but also, like, I'm so scared of it just like disappearing. And I forget when I bought this bag, because before that I was completely stupid and had everything in my backpack.
Join the club.
Yeah, not great. Not
Mine,
great for the spine.
no, but my spine is paying its dues now.
Yeah.
And again, throwback to that combo breaker I worked with yourself
Mm.
and everyone else. I wasn't staying on site, and all I had was my rucksack with all the camera gear I ever owned.
Oi.
And
Oi, oi,
so
oi.
I had to truck it back after end of the day to behind the park where the pond is to the other Renaissance Hotel, and my feet and
Good Lord.
spine was just dead. Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds like my first Eva. I did that as well. Granted, I had much less gear. So my first Eva, I had much less gear. I just had, it wasn't on camera. It was just a backpack.
Yeah.
Everything tossed in and like, it covered all my lenses and my cameras with like t-shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
Whew, that's rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, get a rolly bag. So
Definitely.
I was kind of against them because when I was in middle school and high school,
It wasn't cool.
only like the giga dorks had that. Yeah. And then I am a giga dork.
We all are. We all are.
Like, we're all yeah, just accept our fate. We're all giga dorks.
We're all giga dogs. We're doing this for love and passion.
Yeah.
But honestly, getting old sucks. And any less weight on me and that I'm able to drag alongside me is a godsend, honestly. The
Mhm.
lighter my backpack can be, the better it is.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So yeah, the think tank to penny case, yeah, I would
Mm.
like, I was considering actually reversing that and getting a think tank. But just thinking on it was just like, I prefer a hard case. Because if I do need to throw this around, or if anyone does need to use this as a suitcase, like, it can take a beating and then some. I'm not sure a soft bag would basically be kicked around or sat on.
That's maybe something for me to consider actually, because normally they try to take my bag during like smaller flights. So maybe if it's a big bag, then it should be somewhere in between. But then I forget who it was, but someone told me also, like, if you have a pelly case, it's obviously, for anyone who knows stuff, you can tell it's camera equipment, and then you'll be more targeted for, like, I don't know, being harassed or something, or someone try to yank your stuff. So I'm a bit,
That's the thing. Like,
maybe just don't walk around Brazilian favelas or something. I don't know. Like, there's ways to avoid that. So I mean, normally, like,
a lot.
not very often, no, but also generally even at events, whenever we're done, I tend to like walk with someone.
Yes,
Not even after just safety, just because I like my friends.
exactly. You want to hang out. You want to put the camera down, chill, have a chat, drink if you do drink. And yeah, one thing, like in Esteban's episode, I'm not sure if you watched, or if you guys haven't watched it, go watch Esteban
Love Esteban.
the episode. Like, yeah, after the day is done and everyone's chilling at the bar, put the camera down. Like, nothing that needs to be recorded, it needs to be recorded. The things you've got to do have already been done. This is just time to chill and just let everyone relax and not care about having a camera shoved in their face.
I just want to say Esteban, top 5 bald people ever. This is just to make sure that he listens to it and then writes to me and goes, "What the fuck?" But like that ass.
I'll
he's one of my
make
favorite
it.
people.
I'll make it into a short. Like, it will just live on forever outside of the episode.
Let's go.
Okay, top 5 bald people. One of them's Esteban. Who's the other 4?
I haven't thought that far. Which goes to show that Esteban is number 1.
There you go. Esteban is number 1. He is a very funny guy. He's a great guy. Love him to bits. But yeah, back on to the slightly technical gear nerd questions. What's your favorite lens to use?
Ooh, 85.
Why?
It's just sexy. Sexy bokeh. 135. Honestly, so I just started getting to primes like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so nice. They're just so clean. They're so crispy. My 2870 shoots like a prime, so that's also really, really fun to have that like diversity.
Yeah.
But yeah, 85. 135 when it hits. Sometimes it's a bit overkill because it's so zoomy.
Yeah.
But when it hits, like when I was in Shanghai, I went to the Bund, as it's called, and did like some like street photography, and like everyone's taking selfies, and I was taking photos of people taking selfies. I was like super meta, and I took the 135, and the bokeh on that is just like insane.
How big is a 135?
Great question. And my camera bag is tucked away somewhere now, but it's just funny because 2870 is so heavy. Everything else, everyone's like, oh, the 7200 looks so big, but like 2870 is a chunky.
Is it?
Chunky boy.
Okay.
Yeah. hence why it probably shoots like a prime as well, right? So,
that's a 1.8, 1.2, or 2.4?
For the 2870,
For 85,
yeah, 1. I think 1.2 or 1.4, yeah, one of those. Yeah, for the 2070, it's 2.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, just straight up 2.0.
Just 2. Yeah.
Damn. Okay. Wow. That's why it's a chunky boy.
Yeah. Big glass.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, that's your favorite. So if you had to choose one lens to shoot a whole event, all 3 days, and media days. Don't forget media days.
And media day. Oh, damn, why are you doing me like this?
Which lens would you choose?
70-200. It depends, of course, on the scale and type of it. Either 70-200 or 2870, because I ain't shooting a media day with a prime with a 15-35 and making people look all distorted and stuff. Like, I want to keep them clean. You don't like. I love wide angles.
Yes.
I love capturing like the grandioseness of an event.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
especially in an arena.
Yeah, sometimes you don't need it. There's one photo I got in Brazil actually, when it was during the Counter-Strike Major when Cadian is like doing like the clap thing.
Yeah.
And he's facing the audience and he's like this, and I did that with a 35. You don't see the grandioseness, but because of like the composition and everything, you do still see that's an ocean of people. So you don't need wide angle to like show scale, but I do like the distortions. I do like them. I mean, that's how. Oh, I remember one of my favorite photos now. Tasty Steve.
Oh yes.
During you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that, speaking of distortion, that photo was possible because of distortion. So that was a 15-35 that I then cropped in, which then made his like finger like massive, and it just that the proportions are wacky, but it just worked. Steve, right? So
Steve being Steve, yes.
Steve's been a Steve. So yeah, no, for sure. So those two I would have to, but I do like my 15-35.
Okay, cool. Okay. And one question I definitely need to ask and completely forgot about till now. You mentioned so many countries. 2 questions. What is your favorite major, and what is your favorite country you visited? And I know the answer to the second question is not Shanghai.
It's not Shanghai. It's just one. Question number 2 answer is Tokyo, number 1. Just to Japan, number 1. I'm just trying to think. That's such a generic answer. Paris has really grown on me.
Really?
Yeah, I used to hate Paris and it used to smell bad. I think they got better at it, but Paris is so good now for a multitude of reasons.
I need to visit the streets of Paris that you've been to, because I still think it smells.
You still don't? Well, you're also British, so that's kind of like your opinion, man. Have a soft spot for Copenhagen. Lisbon is nice.
Yeah.
Hawaii was great. I'll probably never get a chance to go to Hawaii again because it's so far. It's so far.
But Pokemon Hawaii looked amazing as well, and shout out to that team.
Fantastic. Shout outs to Pokemon. They're incredible people all around.
Yes.
Production side and the Pokemon staff.
Yes.
Shout outs to Singh, by the way.
Yes. He's a good guy.
Singh, one of the goats. But then the first question I forgot. I think I was trying to avoid it, but I'll answer it because I have to.
Yes, you do. First question was your favorite event. That's not Combo Break or Evo.
Ooh. I'm gonna, off the top of my head, again, the first Blast, like I said, with like my favorite people ever.
Yeah.
And Worlds was also great.
Cool.
It was me, Adela, Eric, Mandalay Bay, and Anne-Malay. I like to call him Mandalay Bay. It's just annoying. He's got a silly last name. Matthew Truelove, who is kicking ass at HLTV right now.
Nice.
And I forget who else. Oh, Joao was also there. Long story short, like after Worlds, after the trophy lift, we all come back and we're like, I suck. I didn't get any good photos. I'm so bad at my job. Look at this absolute dog shit. And we're all like, are you dumb? Like, this is good. Are you blind? Or do you not understand that you just took, like, we all hated our own work, but we hyped each other up. And I'll just never forget that. Just like toxic, positive, toxic moment. Just everyone be like, yeah. Yeah, those are 2 I think come to mind for sure. I feel like there's something else I'm missing, but yeah.
It might come back to you in a second. But I'm going to come back to the second question, favorite country. I'm going to exclude Tokyo and Japan in general.
That's fine. Because who doesn't?
Right. Like, when you've been and you realize like why it's such an amazing country to visit, it's just like...
gonna look at. So I write down all my stuff on my notes, like all the events I shoot.
Yeah.
So let me just check, like 2024.
Go for it.
What was let's see.
And whilst you do that, there is an app on Apple, at least, Travelly. I think there's a few people use. I'm waiting for it to come on Android, but that basically like gives you a list of like a boarding pass sort of image of places you've been, how far you've traveled. I'm waiting for that to come to Android.
Okay, I started using Flighty.
But that's the one. Sorry, not yeah, Flighty. That was it.
Yeah, that's super fun.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that to come to Android because we suck apparently.
Let's see. Yeah, Berlin's kind of great as well.
Yeah.
New Orleans also super great.
Oh yeah, Tekken.
But yeah, Pokemon New Orleans. They're also going back there next year, so I don't know. If you go to Comma Breaker, take a little break, and then go to New Orleans for Pokemon, worth it. Some good eggs there.
Yeah. New Orleans, I want to go only for the food. Like the film Chef is just, it killed me, and now
That's become one of my comfort movies, actually.
Honestly.
It's so good.
The grilled cheese moment always gets me. It's like, damn, I need a grilled cheese now.
And the music and I love that movie.
Yeah, and the Netflix show as well. If you haven't seen that of him making the food from the film, just good. Jon Favreau is a genius. Like, I don't think...
He is. I want to give him a hug.
Honestly. He's a go. Like, the best. Right. Last question, I think, before... Because I've taken up a lot of your time. I've segued to so many different things.
I'm loving them. I'm having so much fun.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you. 2 questions, really. Fun.
Yay.
What is one thing you think people should know about your role? Like, Joe Public, on the show floor, like, oh, I want to get in this, and, they've listened to this episode and go, yeah, cool, like, I need to go to more events, I've got to bring my camera, I've got to talk to people and all of that. But what is one thing you think people should definitely know about your role as a professional photographer, not just within esports, you're a professional photographer, and one thing they don't realize that they should definitely know about what you do?
Let me see. You sent this beforehand, so I just want to make sure I don't. I'm going to answer off the top of my head and then see what I wrote down in my notes, because I think this is something I forgot to mention in other interviews. People do not understand how much time I spend traveling and how much it takes away from a lot of my personal life. I miss so much, actually. I miss so much personal events, birthdays, parties, celebrations, chill moments at home. I miss all that because I'm traveling so much, and it's exhausting.
Yeah,
it's really, really exhausting, and because of that, can't really plan much. Right? It's my life revolves around my work.
Yes.
So there's concerts, there's this, there's that. Can't do it. Like, this is my bread and butter, right? So I have to plan things super accordingly, which takes away a lot of time. Like, I forget how many days I calculated it, but I definitely spent more than 6 months away from home in total last year.
Jeez.
Which is a lot.
Yes.
And expensive considering I bought an apartment 2 years ago. But yeah, I sacrifice a lot to be able to do this. And again, with age, the older you get, the more wear and tear goes through your body. These flights aren't healthy. These are not good. And one thing I've started doing recently is understanding how I can exercise and eat healthier while on the road, because for most people, they show up to Evo, Common Breaker, whatever, and it's the one time of year that's their vacation.
Yeah,
they get to eat whatever they want, hang out, enjoy whatever. If I think of that for every event, I'm gonna be so unhealthy. I'm gonna feel like crap. I'm not gonna be in a good space. So I've had to, and I'm still in the process of tailor making an exercise schedule for myself that I can do anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And also being mindful of my nutrition from a health perspective, but also so I can do my job efficiently.
Yes. Yeah. Because don't forget, so show floors are so massive. That's a lot of steps. You're doing at least 10, 15K of walking in general. And then if you go to an arena, up and down stairs, especially in the stadiums, that's a lot of stairs you got to go up and then come back down again to get back to the editing room. Like it's definitely wear and tear on the joints.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's like to have the energy to do that, what's going to give you more energy? Like a bowl of just straight up pasta or like chicken sandwich with protein. Like you gotta balance it out. Like I used to be like, I'm at this event, YOLO, and just get a nice like steak and like just go all out. But you can't do that when you do this full time.
No.
Also, doing this full time takes time.
Yes.
Right? Like I only been doing this full time for 2 years, and that's I'm still haven't figured it out fully. I'm still like, okay, how do I actually plan it out? Because as much as I love my job, I really have the best job in the world. I want this to be sustainable so that I can also live my life when I'm home, right? And I can spend time with my loved ones and provide them with anything, really, especially my parents.
Yeah.
And my partner. So, you have to find that balance out. I'm really lucky to have a partner who like supports what I do and is able to like come with me sometimes, because it could be really tough just like sitting at home, But that's also maybe not for everyone. Like some people just like to stay at home and like support from afar,
Yeah.
So like just want to say like have a good support system as well, because like it's tough to be able to do this on your own. But it's easy to find a community when you find cool people.
Definitely. And yeah, like I said, like birds of a feather. Surrounded by so many cool people in the same space. And probably everyone has gone through a similar situation, potentially. And just being able to communicate, not to turn it into like a therapy session, but friends should help friends. That is
exactly.
That I think that's the key thing of a lot of things. Like if you're friends with someone, checking on them, just say hi, say what's good, ask them what's up.
Yeah.
It just helps.
I mean, that makes my day. Like I have this thing, which might sound stupid to some people, but I'll see someone who I think I know from the internet, and I'm like, they don't know who I am. I'm not going to say hi. And then people come up to me and say hi, and I'm like, wow, I feel so good. Thank you for saying hi, like noticing me. But backtracking a bit as well with like what they don't think and understand is like all of us photographers, we talk. Okay, like if there's some there's some client coming in here trying to like get us to shoot for some mouse pads, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to tell if someone approaches me, I'm going to talk to my friends about that. And I have no shame in saying this, because I believe transparency is what makes us better.
Yes.
And what helps us grow and makes us starts making it a sustainable place to work.
Yes.
I'm tried, like if people ask me about my rates or anything like that or feedback, I always try to help them, because I do not believe in gatekeeping whatsoever. Dare to say, someone once asked me for like presets.
Really?
And I'm not like, I'm not really crazy about sharing presets, but also kind of depends on the event.
Of course, yeah.
And that so I wanted to say like, maybe some people would interpret it as that, but at the end of the day, like I can give advice.
Yes.
Of what to do. I'm not going to like give presets. It's kind of a personal thing, right?
Yeah.
But we talk to each other, we share, and it's not even like a competition. It's just like awareness, because if everyone just keeps to themselves, we're just going to get screwed over, right?
100%. And again, a Rickism is what I'm coining the term, because
Rickism?
He throws out so many bangers like on social media.
Dude, he is one of the wisest people. Like
Honestly.
I tell her, like, you should meet Rick just to hear his wisdom at least once.
Honestly. But Rickism, which I think he's taken from somewhere else, but rising tide raises all boats. So like help everyone else out.
There you go.
Just talk to everyone, talk to each other, and share information, share knowledge, share the love.
Like we didn't get here. I didn't get here by just sticking to my guns and like just not talking to anyone. I got here by asking questions. Some of them smart, some of them dumb as hell.
There are never any dumb questions. It's just very awkward at the time.
Yeah, exactly. You'll get over it at time. But like, I didn't get here by myself. I got here by talking to other people and like, sharing knowledge and vice versa. So like, talk to people. It's okay. I reach out. My DMs are open. I think I made a tweet about this, but like, ask me questions as long as they're not like super technical, because I'm not a technical photographer.
I'm not either. But Steph I'll add the caveat, may take up to 7 working days to get back to you.
This is true. And it's
Only 'cause
nothing
you're so busy.
personal.
Nothing personal. It's just because you're so busy. You're traveling and working so often.
And honestly, like, and I tell this to even people in like my personal life, non-related to esports, is I don't respond immediately because I want to be able to give a quality answer. I don't want to just respond for the sake of responding. I want to give you value. Okay, so value takes time.
Always. And then that leads on to your point. Leads on to a very great segue. Like introverted photographers. Like, what would you say to them, especially?
I mean, I used to be pretty introverted actually. For like, I think up until I was about 10, between the ages of 5 and 10, I was like really quiet. I wouldn't talk to. I don't want to say call myself like that. I was like a mute. I don't even know if that's an okay term to use really, but like I was really quiet. I was so scared to talk to people. Like the anxiety is real, and I still struggle sometimes. But I mask it pretty good. But yeah, no, I used to be terrified to talk to people. But I think a quote that works really well for this is like, life begins at the edge of your comfort zone.
100%.
So, and I think I said this earlier as well. Like, if you don't talk to people, if you don't let people know who you are, they're not going to reach out to you. You're not going to you don't just create magic on your own and then show up and then you're a superstar, like without having to lift a finger. No, you have to you got to get uncomfortable.
You got to do the dirty work. It does suck.
It sucks so hard and it's so rough. And then in that process, you're going to get rejected. That's going to suck too.
Yep.
I get, like, just to be clear with other people, like I get rejected sometimes. That actually happens. Like, and it breaks my heart. It was like some event last year that happened. I forget which one it was. I cried. I was broken. I was like, this is the end of my career. I suck. I can't do anything. This is a testament to that I'm a failure. It was just like one less day at an event, and I felt completely broken. So yeah, that's gonna happen. But back to the introverted thing, like, you gotta put yourself out there, because if you don't, no one's gonna find you.
Yeah, and that is something I'm trying hard to break out of my shell, to talk to people, talk to production, talk to TOs, talk to anyone and everyone that will listen and go, hey, what's good?
Exactly. Like, because honestly, most people are really nice. That's the thing. Not everyone is an enemy. Like, you go to a grocery store, everyone feels like your enemy, right? You go to a fighting game event, you're like, there's so many cool people. Everyone's
homies. Everyone's friendly.
Everyone is homies. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, that's another aspect to introverted people, is that, like, people are much kinder than you think. There's more nice people in this world than there are assholes.
Yes. It's just that the assholes are allowed.
The assholes are just walking red flags, so don't deal with them.
Yeah. Just walk away. It's perfectly fine.
Or they're having a bad day, or they're like a really pissy stage manager.
Yeah. I mean, Pissy Koga is interesting. But, you know.
I know. What's his face? Hanzo Gonzo, first Evo I worked at. He yelled at me. I'll never forget that.
Why?
I see you, Hanzo.
Oh, no.
He yelled at me. It was terrifying. I don't like when people yell. I mean, no one likes being yelled at, but
right. Why was he yelling at you?
Because I was leaning on the stage. He literally verbatim was like, "Get the fuck off the stage." I was like, okay.
Funny story, speaking of Hanzo Gonzo, but Tenno, Chris Segg. It was the mix-up, and they were running the Tekken stage on the side of the main stage. I was stepping over the cabling and the stage to get a shot of both players on the wide, because it was head-to-head. I just had felt someone lean over to my ear and just, in Chris Segg's voice, "Don't step on the wires." I was like, oh, who did Batman just come and try and kill me? Like, oh, fuck.
Oh my God. I can see and hear that, and he's done this to me. He just goes up and he talks like this.
Yeah.
I love you, Segg. I love you so much. You're amazing. But
yes.
You do that and it's really fucking scary. Keep it up.
Please, honestly. It makes fun. It scares the shit but Jesus out of me. But it also makes my day whenever I see him, and just, yeah. Again, shout out to Tenno, great team.
On an opposite note of that, it was some Evo.
Oh.
And it was the end of the show, and Spooky actually came up to me. Spooky was like, before the show, he's like, if anyone goes on your stage, you tell them to fuck off, okay? And I'm like, okay, got you. And then after the event, he's like, Steph, good shit keeping people off the stage. Like, it's like he wanted me to, like, throw down, which I respect, and, like, thanks for giving me the encouragement. Shout out to Spooky as well.
Yeah.
Again, all those guys, just incredible. I love our community so much.
It's
so many gems.
So many gems. All great people. Honestly, like, the stories you hear sometimes don't do them justice.
No.
But
you have to experience it, and that's why you should not be interested. Just go and meet these wacky ass people and just witness the greatness.
Witness greatness. Honestly, with or without alcohol or anything, just come, enjoy the vibes, play a few games, come as a spectator if you don't play games. Like, just come enjoy the show. Honestly, like, these events put on not just for the players, but to get everyone involved. It's a community, and we're only going to grow if you guys turn up. So
worst case scenario, you walk away with some cool merch from the Artist Alley, because I love Artist Alley, like underrated, unsung hero events.
Definitely. Again, European events, fighting game events need more space for Artist Alleys. Speaking of Artist Alleys, shout out to Energix. If you haven't watched that episode, give that a listen or a watch. And they are about to, I believe, attend Frosties this weekend that we're recording potentially. But Vex, Stephanie, I have taken up so much of your time. My final question to you, even though I've asked you so many questions already and you've spoken a lot, like, where can people find you? What is there anything you want to promote? And what is potentially the next event people may see you at, if you're allowed to say?
So they can find me on pretty much any social, mostly Twitter and Instagram at Vexanie, as you can see on the little thing here.
Yep.
I'm bad at this. Yeah. My next event will be the Blast Bounty in studio. My next fighting game event, we'll see what that will be. Should be a good time regardless of that. I'll definitely be at Combo Breaker. Yeah, I don't know. Like, hit me up, ask me questions. I like this. I want to help people because I got here because people helped me. So, like, let's talk, let's vibe, let's make the best possible environment for creatives that we can, because it's rough out here sometimes, okay? Like,
definitely. No.
There's a reason so few of us can do this full time. So let's change that as much as we can. As much as we can.
As much as you can. I'm trying to help as best I can, but we're getting there. But again, Steph, thank you very much for your time. Guys, if you stayed on for this one, thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Hello.